It's February 22nd. We'll go ahead and get started on the Technology Committee meeting, and it is now 5:30. All members could please announce that they're here. Kevin Strobel.
Scott Metz. Brett Cooper.
Julia Wilson. Ashley Godfrey.
Okay. Let's go ahead and jump right in on the internet service provider.
All right. On to tonight's agenda for the voting meeting, we have one of the proposals for the internet service provider that is from Penn Teledata, and that is largely to adhere with the E-rate filing timeline so we can get that in to seek the reimbursement for that. You'll recall we'll have two vendors ultimately, so the other vendor will be on the agenda for March as we move that one forward, but we wanted to ensure that the one that we get reimbursement for is approved well within the timeline that.
Reimbursement's coming from where?
So it comes from the FCC ultimately. There's an agency that runs it called USAC, and that's who we submit it to. So their deadline is in March, right 2 days after the March meeting. So we wanted to make sure we had this in before that in case there's any corrections or anything that need to be
So
made on the.
we do have a number then from them?
We do.
Okay.
It was 1420 a month.
1420?
Yep, correct. And we'll receive 50% reimbursement, so our cost will be $710 a month. So on the internet service provider front as well, we're also working with the BCIU for our separation from the current consortium. About a week ago, they notified us of some costs related to that separation, so we have requested a meeting with them to clarify some of those costs and work together. We believe that the district doesn't actually have to incur all of those costs, so we'll have a discussion with them later this week on that topic. In either scenario, we're still within our margin for savings, no matter what. We may have some separation costs just for the exit from the consortium, but it won't overall impact us and put us in any jeopardy that we aren't saving money in any scenario on that front.
Was there an automatic rollover or anything like that that would cause them to?
No, so it's typically all of our agreements end on a June 30th timeframe. This one, back 5 years ago, they had construction delays and it didn't start until October. So it's like the gap between July and October that we're working out. They initially did not believe they could seek reimbursement for it. Based on some discussions we've had, we think that is possible, so we're going to come together and work through that. And at that point, that we can have or more any of those costs. So it's basically just that bridge period between the two. That's largely why we always like to have our contracts end June 30th, just to avoid those scenarios.
Right, and so using them as the backup wouldn't be an option, so we get something for the money?
Yeah, so it really wouldn't be the most cost effective. They would still be more than our next vendor. So
Okay.
that was an idea we entertained just for.
I meant just for like the internet for the 6 months.
Oh, no, even then, it would still cost us more. Even with them receiving 50% reimbursement, that rate is still higher than our cost.
Right.
So that's ultimately why.
Yeah, no, I'm explaining it wrong. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, let's say that we owe them $1,000 a month for 6 months, so they negotiate with us. It's $3,000.
Yes. Yeah.
Would it be better to keep them for the $3,000, for the difference, and then paying the $3,000 on top of what we're having to pay them?
Yep.
Got them together. It's might as well, and then just make the contracts work at the end.
Yep. Right. So yes. All right.
Just throwing it out there.
So that is actually
Yeah.
part of our thought process, because if we stick with them, they can actually file for reimbursement with it, and that's what would allow us to lower that cost. So yes, to your idea, it would make us cheaper to still run it, not use it, but still to have it on hand. Yes, you're right.
If they negotiate with us.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll just accept the other half.
That would obviously be ideal for us.
I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
Any other questions on that?
The only other question I had was who's going to be for the redundant backup that you talked about?
Crown Castle will be the other event.
Who would?
Crown Castle.
Tram Castle?
Yeah.
Okay. And we need that for tonight's meeting?
That
The
would be not.
1420 a month?
That is the Penn Teledata one. That is on as an item.
Oh, it's in already? Okay, good. Okay. and student information system.
All right, actually, I had 2 items that came through late in the day Friday and some today under the budget prep. The first one is an opportunity for us that more so we're still in the research phase, but I want to make you aware of it, and that's really an early trade-in of the high school iPads. So each year we look at resale value that we can sell the iPads back versus what it remains on the lease, and subsequent or previous years it has not made any sense financially. This year the value of the devices versus the value of the last year of our lease, the value of the device is greater, so we can sell them back, receive that money, and then thus upgrade early for the student iPads at the high school to receive new devices, new cases, what have you. So we're continuing discussions with various buyback vendors, but mostly just make you aware of that possibility that we may be able to get new devices, essentially at no cost. I mean, they're obviously the lease renewal, but that would be a sell-back process. So I'll have more information for you in March on that process as we go down further, but since that wasn't really a topic of consideration at all over the last couple of months, I want to make you just aware of that possibility for us. And
Are the next leases similar to this?
Yeah, it could be the exact same thing.
Oh,
yeah, we structured the exact same way.
That's what we call a no-brainer.
Well, as long as it's videos, everything plays
works,
out
yeah.
in 6 seconds, so that's what we want to do.
Take these back, keep the payment the same, cost you nothing,
Yeah.
and you get a new device.
Yeah, so that would allow us to avoid some, if they have one more year next, that will
That'd be
avoid
good,
some of the maintenance.
be good for our insurance too, because the breaking's going to happen. It's
Yeah.
never usually the first year, it's usually the second, third, or fourth.
That's absolutely right, yep. So, that's the,
I'm sorry, Mr. Scott, I thought we were going to offer students the chance to purchase the iPad at the end of each lease.
so that was a topic back when we first looked at this, we did consider that. Ultimately, we suggested not because we'd have to incur sales tax and other liabilities if we look to sell the device back from them. And there was, I believe, just a general recommendation that some districts had done that, but seemed to be legally a gray area whether we could do it from a licensing perspective
Oh,
as
because
well.
it would be over $750 in sales in a quarter. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
All right.
The other item is, I had mentioned that this year one of the applications we had to replace is Town Ed, which is our portal that we use for posting job applications and that sort of thing. The recommendation is not to continue with that platform. We've had performance issues ever since an acquisition about 18 months to 2 years ago. So we engaged in conversations with Frontline, who's already powering our professional development and employee evaluation product. And we were able to work with them to achieve, they have basically a mirror of the product for almost the equivalent cost. It's about $2,000 a year additional cost. However, it has increased functionality for us as far as employee onboarding. So it actually allows us to send out paperless packets, forms, and that sort of thing with the system. So we're currently in talks with them as well, but that would be looks like a recommendation as a replacement product for that platform to phase out Town Ed and be done with the numerous issues we've had there. We've engaged the principals to look at the system, and they had no issues and had positive feedback, primarily based on positive experience already with My Learning Plan, which is the professional development piece that we brought online.
So Frontline does the My Learning?
Yeah, they're all integrated under one platform. So the benefit is as employees come in, then it pushes out to all those systems under one roof for us. So that information came in Friday as far as pricing goes. We're going back with them a little bit further just to review all of the functionality to make sure it's apples to apples. But again, also just make you aware for a March timeframe that may be the ultimate recommendation for that platform.
Makes sense.
And that is it for budget. Otherwise, in March, the other item we'll bring forth is recommendations for our usual equipment purchases and whatnot, to have that reviewed, any questions we have, and looking ultimately for approval in that ball rolling. And at that point, that's when we start discussing budget reductions and whatnot based on pricing that we negotiate with the vendors and whatnot. So that's what's in the distance on that end.
How far before we just start? You're looking at it like we had originally thought that we were gonna try and level this playing field so everything starts the leases. Is there any pieces not in that process?
This would be the final year. So this is the
Final
faculty device,
Yep.
and this,
Okay.
based on our iPad 1-to-1 K-8 last year,
Yep.
that sped that up substantially.
Right.
So this is really our last piece, and then
Okay.
we will have everything on a lease agreement, which will be
Great.
awesome. Any other questions?
You?
Under student information, the online registration piece, that setup is in progress now. We had training last week. We have another training tomorrow. And that's largely just on the back end piece of it. So that's setting up really the workflow of the fields, the nitty gritty of that. One of the most promising things that's come out of that, beyond just the ability for parents to register new students from the comfort of their home, is really we're looking pretty strong for elimination of that start of the year paperwork and the processes around that. So I know that was a topic last month, that we'd be able to fully eliminate things, and as we continue down that path, it is looking promising for us. Not only the elimination, but also just some flexibility that we can, rather than hitting parents with a sudden surge of forms to fill out that first week of school, we can actually open it up earlier if we so choose, at a date and time of our choice. So rather than having chaos the first week of school, we can have the chaos spread out over the month of August as far as forms go. So just a little bit more convenient for parents, a little bit more convenient for us to have a little bit better data integrity, so we don't have to try and figure out what someone's handwriting says on a paper form. They can update it automatically for us, and that would be contact information, emergency contacts, medication, waivers, that sort of thing. We believe we'll be able to fully route through Infinite Campus. So that's been a much requested feature, and we believe we're finally going to be able to deliver on it for the upcoming school year. Any questions on that front?
Yeah, sounds great.
Under the digital learning, for the learning management system, obviously Blackboard's on the approval for tonight. We're continuing to work with Mrs. Owens on a professional development plan, and we'll be working with the cabinet members in March as we present some proposals there. We'll also be meeting with our first meeting with the teacher cohort at our March 19th in-service to begin getting them prepped. That's our quote-unquote vanguard group to get them off and running in advance of the faculty at large in the 6 to 12 buildings. So we're pleased as that moves forward, and once the agreement is officially approved tonight, then we'll be able to kick off that process with that Blackboard, officially bringing that system online. Any questions on that one? That is all I have for this time.
Okay, no other questions? That concludes our technology meeting.